Hello, we're Andy, the Maniacal Cinephile, and today we're discussing the top 10 most unique horror movie weapons.
Ooh, like Michael Myers' knife or Jason's machete.
Iconic, yes, but a boring old knife isn't really unique, good Andy.
Hey, a true classic never goes out of style.
Evil, I'm looking for something you can't find in a kitchen or hardware store. These weapons have to be unique. I know, Edward Scissorhands is more of a fantasy romance film, but it is from the mind of Tim Burton. It's basically his version of Frankenstein, and it borrows a lot from the horror genre. In a spooky castle up on a hill lives a lonely inventor.
Played by Vincent Price in his last movie.
His greatest creation, Edward, a human-like young man, has everything except for hands. Unfortunately, the inventor died of a heart attack, leaving Edward forever unfinished.
Unlike Edward Penis Hands, who always finishes.
Left with scissors for hands, Edward lives alone until a kind lady named Peg discovers him and invites him to live with her family. At first, the community welcomes him, but after several misunderstandings, they eventually turn on him.
What are you doing? Get away from him!
Edward Scissorhands can be seen as a metaphor for a disabled person's life and the harassment, exploitation, and exclusion they face in an able-bodied world.
Have they caught him yet?
Who?
Him, that cripple.
Who? The legless titty grabber?
To construct these scissor hands, Stan Winston and his team searched for every kind of pruning, shear, and scissor ever made, with each finger looking different from the next. Most of the scissor hands had safe, lightweight resin blades, but a few metal ones were made for insert shots. Edward may not have a large body count, but his scissor hands are unique. This October, we are once again in cahoots with the In Search of Darkness documentary team. This time, they're covering 90s horror, and the campaign is live. Order your copy to access 20+ hours of events, including exclusive live Q&As with 90s horror legends, some sick merchandise, and your name in the credits. Did you miss out on their incredible 80s trilogy? Well, you can add that too. Use our link in the description or pinned comment to get your copy of the documentary and all those goodies. Now, back to the video. Planet Terror is an action horror comedy written and directed by Robert Rodriguez. It was released as a grindhouse double feature with Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof.
Mr. Totino's worst movie is still better than most.
Rose McGowan plays go-go dancer Cherry Darling, who runs into her mysterious ex-boyfriend, El Rey, at the Bone Shack.
A strip club and then barbecue? Now that's a date!
A gas is released, mutating people into zombies. Random attacks begin along the highway, causing El Rey and Cherry to crash. In the aftermath, several zombies tear off Cherry's right leg.
Well, maybe she can be a go-go hopper.
El Rey arrives at the hospital and attaches a table leg to Cherry's stump.
It's probably one of those metaphor thingies.
For what?
Giving her wood!
You son of a bitch. Later, Cherry breaks her wooden leg across a soldier's face, played by Tarantino, and stabs him in the eye.
Dance for me, motherfucker.
El Rey arrives to rescue Cherry and replaces her broken peg leg with an assault rifle and grenade launcher.
For once, this cherry does the popping.
Red Miller and Mandy Bloom lead a loving and peaceful existence that is destroyed by cult leader Jeremiah Sand, which catapults Red into a phantasmagoric, bloody journey. Mandy stars Nicolas Cage, a unique actor whose character needs a unique weapon. The morning after Mandy's death, Red fetches his crossbow from his friend Carruthers,
The guy from The Predator who relaxes by dry shaving.
To avenge the death of his girlfriend Mandy, Red forges a battle axe nicknamed the Beast. The weapon's shape was inspired by the letter F in the logo for metal band Celtic Frost.
It reminds me of my black metal band.
Really evil? What's it called?
Check out the logo.
Cool. The director, Panos Cosmatos, said he wanted the weapon to be a manifestation of Red's grief and insanity, and not like a real object, more like a mythical artifact that he pulls out of his soul.
Because it'd be too painful to pull out of his ass.
We see from her illustrations and books that Mandy is a lover of the fantasy genre. Red is a logger, so he creates this mythical weapon in her memory to avenge her. It takes an equally creative and silly person to come up with the weapon in Slumber Party Massacre Part 2. 1982's Slumber Party Massacre, intended to be a slasher parody, followed a high school senior who gathers her friends for a slumber party, unaware there's an escaped power drill-wielding killer loose in the neighborhood.
Those pillow fights aren't going to break up themselves.
The title, Slumber Party Massacre 2, sounds like a joke from a Scream movie. The sequel took the already silly driller-killer idea and turned it up to 11.
Well, that's one way to shred.
In the sequel, the Courtney character returns, played by a different actress, and her friends go to a condo for a weekend getaway. Courtney has a dream of the killer from the first film, who is now reincarnated as a young greaser and armed with a drill bit guitar.
Who? What? How?
With Courtney's hallucinations, who knows what's real?
I have got the fastest growing zit I've ever had in my entire life. I mean, look at this thing.
I've seen worse on Dr. Pimple Popper.
He's a leather-clad, eyeliner-wearing punk who says silly one-liners before drilling people to death.
Come on, baby. We go to rock and roll.
When it comes to slasher movies, it's not the greatest, but the driller killer definitely has a unique weapon. Seth Gecko and his loose cannon brother Richard are on the run after a bank robbery. They kidnap preacher Jacob Fuller and his kids, sneaking across the Mexican border and hole up in a topless bar called the Titty Twister.
And where would one find this place?
Special effects artist Tom Savini plays Sex Machine, who steals his buddy's drink, played by fellow effects artist Greg Nicotero.
If he drinks too much whiskey, does it jam?
The movie then takes a hard right turn because the bar is home base for a gang of vampires, and the brothers and their hostages have to fight their way out.
For once, I'm happy my bedtime is before the sun goes down.
After the bloodbath, our characters escape to a storeroom where they find loot from previous victims and create weapons. They use everything to kill these vampires, including a crossbow, condoms turned into holy water balloons, a holy water squirt gun, and even a disco ball. Hell, George Clooney, taking on a horde of vampires with a steak jackhammer, is the icing on the cake.
However, the deadliest weapon is Selma Hayek.
In 1990, New Line Cinema bought the rights to make Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3, because they wanted another franchise.
It was time to put Freddy Krueger to sleep.
They made several chainsaws, but producer Bob Shea threw them all out and wanted it redone. He wanted Leatherface to wield something different, the Cadillac of chainsaws, with a 3-foot bar that weighed 80 pounds.
After that workout, Leatherface will need his protein.
In the movie, our heroine, Michelle, is tied up in the kitchen when Leatherface returns home. Tex brings Leatherface a gift, a large golden chainsaw with the words, "The saw is family," engraved on it. A line said by Drayton Sawyer in Part 2.
But the saw is family.
Hell, even the Lady in the Lake-inspired teaser trailer had the beautiful Excalibur chainsaw.
I also need a bolt of lightning to start my toaster.
When it comes to Part 3, whether you love it or hate it, they made some memorable chainsaws. When teenagers Mike and Debbie see a comet crash outside their sleepy small town, they investigate and discover not the Blob, but a pack of killer aliens who look like clowns.
Soon, they'll be playing this movie on the History Channel.
They try to warn the local authorities, but everyone assumes their story is a prank. Meanwhile, the clowns harvest and eat as many people as they can. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is an entertaining B-movie with some of the most inventive and unique horror movie weapons.
Later, he peed on a blow-up fire hydrant.
The cotton candy gun zaps people and turns them into cotton candy cocoons. After that, they're taken back to the circus tent spacecraft where they're hung up like meat on a hook. The cocoons dissolve the humans, and when ready, they're drunk by the clowns with a crazy straw. Nothing filters a beverage like fiberglass insulation. The popcorn bazooka shoots out pieces of popcorn that later grow into clown offspring.
Great! Now she has to call a plumber!
John Kramer was a brilliant engineer and architect. However, after being diagnosed with brain cancer, John drove his car off a cliff.
The car had better insurance than he did.
Surprisingly, he survived and learned to cherish life. With only months to live, John chose to spend that time testing other people's will to live, hoping it would convince them to value their life and abandon their vices.
But every Thursday night is for my drunk hit and runs!
John Kramer, aka Jigsaw, designed and built numerous traps that became increasingly gruesome and convoluted. There are over 60 traps in the Saw franchise, each one unique to fit its test subject. Son of a bitch, I put it on upside down. The most iconic is probably the first movie's reverse bear trap.
I want to play a song. I bless the day I found you. I want to stay around you.
The Saw series shows no signs of slowing down, so we can only assume there will be more traps in the future. And to think, this all started in a filthy bathroom.
Most fun things do.
Phantasm follows the Tall Man, an alien undertaker seeking human corpses to process into an army of slaves. His primary weapon is the Sentinel Spheres. The Sentinels are flying metal orbs used by the Tall Man for various purposes, mainly enforcement. They are best known for piercing someone's skull and sucking out their blood.
Nice. The Tall Man tapped him like a keg.
The idea came from director Don Coscarelli's Nightmares, and the prop work was done by Will Green. In the first film, the Sentinels are silver, but the sequels introduce other colors, such as gold and black, and they all have their own unique function.
How do I get one to scratch my back?
To combat the Tall Man and his dwarf army, everybody's favorite ice cream vendor, Reggie Bannister, welded twin double-barrel shotguns together to form his Regman quad-barrel dwarf cutter.
Damn it.
For when you need to negotiate with the Jawas.
Reggie's 4-barreled shotgun is a unique piece of firepower and one of the coolest weapons in horror history. The original Nightmare on Elm Street opens with Fred Krueger in the boiler room crafting his razor glove.
Where was his supervisor?
Wes Craven was inspired by mankind's earliest, most primal fear.
Mother.
What? No! An animal's claw!
You know what? Happy Halloween!
The glove was designed by Jim Doyle and built by Lou Carlucci, who used sheet metal, pipes, fishing knives, rivets, and an old leather work glove. The noise of his blade scratching along surfaces struck fear into his victims before he attacked.
Or mild annoyance.
Across 9 movies and 2 seasons of a TV show, Freddy Krueger has an on-screen kill count of roughly 58 people. Freddy Krueger's razor glove is arguably the most unique horror movie weapon. Let us know in the comments if you have a favorite unique horror movie weapon. We've been Andy, the Maniacal Cinephile.
Thanks for liking and subscribing.
We'll see you next time.